Maya Johnson stared at her reflection in the tinted window of the sleek black Bentley parked along the curb. The luxury car's darkened glass made the perfect mirror for what she was about to do. With trembling hands, she pulled out a tube of bright red lipstick, a shade she knew was all wrong for her deep brown skin tone. She'd chosen it specifically because it would look terrible. This was the plan. Sabotage this blind date before it even began. She had agreed to meet this handsome hotshot executive. Her friend Tasha wouldn't stop talking aboundly to get Tasha off her back. "He's perfect for you," Tasha had insisted for weeks. Smart, successful, kind. But Maya didn't want perfect. She didn't want anyone, not after what happened with Marcus. So here she was, in front of Lhateau, one of the most exclusive restaurants in the city, deliberately making herself look ridiculous. She smeared the lipstick far beyond her natural lip line, creating a clown-like appearance. Next came the eyeshadow, a bright, glittery blue that she applied all the way up to her eyebrows. She messed up her carefully straightened hair, pulling strands loose from her elegant updo. "This should do it," she muttered to herself, examining her handiwork in the window's reflection. "One look at me, and he'll run for the hills." Maya didn't notice the slight movement inside the Bentley, didn't realize someone was watching her transformation with growing fascination. Didn't see the amused smile that spread across the face of Elijah Carter, the 35-year-old billionaire whose reputation for being impossible to impress was legendary in business circles. Elijah had arrived early for his own dinner meeting. He'd been on a call when this beautiful woman in an elegant black dress walked up to his car and began what appeared to be some kind of bizarre makeover ritual. At first, he was annoyed at the invasion of privacy, but as he watched her methodically destroy what was clearly already a stunning appearance, his annoyance gave way to curiosity. What kind of woman deliberately makes herself look bad? And why? The question intrigued him more than any business deal had in years. Inside the Bentley, Elijah instructed his driver, "James, change of plans. Cancel my dinner with the investors." "Sir?" James questioned, surprised by the sudden change. "I have a feeling something more interesting is about to happen," Elijah said, his eyes never leaving the woman who was now smearing her mascara to create fake tear tracks down her cheeks. Maya stepped back from the window, satisfied with her disaster of a makeup job. She looked absolutely ridiculous, exactly as planned. She even added a final touch, a large fake coffee stain on the front of her expensive dress, created with a bit of water and bronzer from her makeup bag. "Perfect," she whispered. "He'll take one look, make some excuse, and I'll be home in time for my show." She turned toward the restaurant entrance, squaring her shoulders. What Maya didn't know was that her life was about to change forever. Not because of the blind date she was planning to sabotage, but because of the man in the Bentley who had just witnessed the most honest act of deception he'd ever seen. As she walked away, Elijah Carter stepped out of his car. "James," he said to his driver, "I need to know who that woman is." "Would you like me to follow her, sir?" Elijah smiled, a rare sight that transformed his usually serious face. "No, I think I'll do that myself." The night air was cool against Maya's skin as she pushed open the heavy door of Lhateau, unaware that the city's most eligible bachelor had just canceled a $20 million business deal just to find out why a woman would use his car window as a mirror to make herself ugly. 2 hours earlier, Maya had been standing in her apartment, staring at the black dress that hung on her closet door. It was beautiful, a sleek, form-fitting number that she'd bought 2 years ago for a gallery opening that never happened. Marcus had broken up with her the day before the event, and the dress had remained unworn, a reminder of plans that fell apart. "Why am I even doing this?" she asked her empty apartment. Tasha had been relentless about this setup, insisting that after 2 years of self-imposed dating exile, it was time for Maya to get back out there. "He's really nice, Maya," Tasha had promised over the phone that morning. His name is David. He works in finance or something. Smart guy, great smile. Just meet him for dinner. If you hate it, you never have to see him again. Maya had finally agreed, if only to stop the constant badgering. But as the day progressed, her anxiety grew. By afternoon, she'd drafted a polite text declining the date. By evening, she'd written and deleted a fake emergency excuse. Then, just as she was zipping up the dress, a different idea took hold. What if she showed up looking so terrible that he would be the one to end the date early? It was perfect. She wouldn't have to be the bad guy, and Tasha couldn't claim she hadn't tried. Maya would simply be the victim of a shallow man who couldn't see past a bad makeup day. She'd even gain some sympathy points. The plan felt brilliant, liberating even. Meanwhile, across town, Elijah Carter was wrapping up a meeting in his penthouse office. Elijah barely noticed the view anymore. After building Carter Enterprises from nothing into a billion-dollar tech and real estate empire, the city's beauty had become just another backdrop to endless meetings. The investors are confirmed for 8 p.m. at Lhateau, his assistant Nina reminded him as she gathered her things to leave for the day. Elijah nodded absently, his attention on the financial reports on his tablet. The Singapore deal, what's the latest? They're still hesitating. Want better terms. Nina placed a folder on his desk. Details are in there. Oh, and your mother called again. She wants to know if you're bringing anyone to the charity gala next month. Elijah sighed. His mother's not-so-subtle attempts at matchmaking were becoming more frequent. At 35, he was, according to her, dangerously close to becoming a permanent bachelor. Tell her I'll be attending alone, as usual. Nina gave him a knowing look before heading to the door. One day, you're going to surprise us all and actually fall in love, Mr. Carter. Elijah laughed. Unlikely. Love is inefficient. It creates variables that can't be controlled. After Nina left, Elijah stood by the window, looking down at the city that had given him everything except the one thing he didn't know he was missing. He had dated, of course. Beautiful, accomplished women who matched him on paper. But something always felt off. Mechanical. Like business arrangements dressed up as relationships. Love is inefficient, he repeated to himself. A mantra he'd adopted after watching his parents' marriage crumble under the weight of his father's success and subsequent affairs. At 7:45 p.m., Elijah got into his Bentley, instructing James to head to Lhateau. The restaurant was a favorite among the city's elite, exclusive enough that he could conduct business without interruption, yet with food good enough to justify the exorbitant prices. James navigated through evening traffic, eventually pulling up half a block from the restaurant's entrance. I'll circle around for closer parking, he said. No rush, Elijah replied, using the few minutes to review notes for his meeting. He was midway through a complex projection chart when a movement outside the car caught his attention. A woman in a black dress approached the car, seemingly unaware that someone was inside. The tinted windows, nearly opaque from the outside, gave her the impression of privacy as she peered at her reflection in the glass. Elijah was about to knock on the window to alert her to his presence when he saw her pull out a makeup bag and begin what appeared to be a very deliberate act of self-sabotage. His hand paused mid-air. Something about the determination in her eyes, visible even through the tinted glass, made him hesitate. This wasn't vanity, this was strategy. He could recognize a tactical move when he saw one. And just like that, his evening plans changed course. At the same moment, Maya stood before the car, unaware that she was being observed, unaware that the man inside wasn't just any wealthy person, but Elijah Carter himself, a man whose face regularly appeared in business magazines and whose name was synonymous with success. She was too busy executing her plan to notice the slight shift of movement within the car, or the curious eyes that watched her transformation from beauty to beast with growing fascination. Two strangers, connected by a window between the moan seeking escape, the other suddenly feeling more awake than he had in years. Maya pushed through the heavy doors of Lhateau, her confidence in her plan making her bold despite her ridiculous appearance. The restaurant's interior was all old-world elegance, crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, and waitstaff dressed more formally than most wedding guests. The maitre d' looked up from his podium, his well-practiced smile faltering at the sight of her. "Good evening, madam. Do you have a reservation?" he asked, his eyes darting nervously around as if hoping no regular customers were witnessing this scene. "Yes, under David Chen," Maya replied sweetly. "I believe he may already be here." The maitre d' checked his list, visibly relieved to find the name. "Ah, yes. Mr. Chen arrived a few minutes ago. Please, follow me." As they weaved between tables, Maya felt eyes turning toward her. Whispers followed in her wake, exactly as planned. She fought back a smile, already imagining the horrified expression on her blind date's face. At a corner table, a handsome Asian man in a crisp blue suit stood as they approached. His warm smile froze as he took in Maya's appearance, but to her surprise, it didn't disappear entirely. "You must be Maya," he said, extending his hand. "I'm David." Maya shook his hand, slightly thrown by his composure. "Yes, that's me. Sorry I'm a bit disheveled. It's been quite a day." She exaggerated a sigh for effect. "Please, sit down," David offered, pulling out her chair. Outside, Elijah Carter stepped into Lhateau less than a minute after Maya. He nodded to the maitre d', who recognized him immediately. "Mr. Carter, we weren't expecting you tonight. Your usual table?" "Actually," Elijah said quietly, "I'd prefer something with a view of the corner table." He discreetly pointed toward where Maya was now seated with her date. The maitre didn't question the request. Elijah Carter's preferences were law in establishments like this. "Of course, sir. Right this way." Elijah was shown to a table with a perfect vantage point. He could see Maya's face clearly, though her back was to him. Her date sat facing Elijah's direction, unaware that one of the city's most powerful men was watching their interaction with unusual interest. "Will anyone be joining you, sir?" the waiter asked. "No, just me." Elijah opened the menu but didn't look at it. "Bring me whatever the chef recommends tonight. And a bottle of the Bordeaux I had last time." At the corner table, Maya was becoming increasingly frustrated. David Chen was being irritatingly nice despite her appearance. He hadn't run away or made an excuse to leave early. Instead, he was making pleasantly neutral conversation about the restaurant's famous breadbasket. "So, Tasha tells me you're an art curator," David said, buttering a piece of sourdough. Maya nodded, deliberately smearing her already ruined lipstick as she took a bite of bread. "Contemporary African and African-American artists, mainly." "That's fascinating. I actually just saw an exhibition at the Hammond Gallery last weekend. They had this incredible installation by a Nigerian artist." "Olawale Peters," Maya finished, momentarily forgetting her plan in her enthusiasm. "His work on diaspora identity is revolutionary. You saw that?" David's eyes lit up. "Yes. The piece with all the mirrors and family photographs was moving. I stood there for probably 20 minutes just taking it in." Despite herself, Maya felt a spark of genuine interest. David had actually gone to a serious art exhibition, not just some trendy show that people attended to be seen, and he had opinions about it, good ones. "The mirrors represent the fractured sense of self," she found herself explaining. "The way identity gets reflected and distorted through migration and—" She stopped abruptly, realizing she was getting pulled into a real conversation. "Sorry," she said, remembering her mission. "I don't mean to bore you with art talk." She deliberately knocked over her water glass, sending ice cubes skidding across the white tablecloth. "Not boring at all," David said, quickly helping the waiter who rushed over to clean up the spill. "Actually, I'd love to hear more about your perspective on Peter's work." From his table, Elijah watched the scene unfold with growing amusement. He couldn't hear their conversation, but the woman's body language told a clear story. She would say something. Her date would respond pleasantly, and then she would deliberately do something awkward or unpleasant, dropping food, talking with her mouth full, snorting when she laughed. Yet her date seemed unfazed. If anything, he appeared to be enjoying himself. Elijah found himself oddly invested in this strange dinner theater. Who was this woman? And why was she so determined to sabotage what appeared to be a perfectly pleasant date with a man who, by all appearances, was being patient and kind? When the waiter returned to take their order, Maya deliberately chose the messiest items on the menu: ribs, garlic prawns, foods guaranteed to create opportunities for more accidents. David, meanwhile, ordered the sea bass. As Maya excused herself to use the restroom, planning to add even more ridiculous touches to her appearances, Shay passed by Elijah's table without a glance. But he noticed everything about her: the intelligence in her eyes despite the clownish makeup, the grace in her movements despite her deliberate clumsiness, the flashes of genuine passion when she forgot herself during their conversation. In the ladies' room, Maya stared at her reflection in the elegant mirror. The plan wasn't working. David was being so nice that she was actually starting to feel guilty about her scheme. Worse, she was starting to like him. He was knowledgeable about art, easy to talk to, and either truly didn't care about her appearance or was the most polite man on the planet. "Stick to the plan," she told her reflection firmly. She added more blue eyeshadow, messed up her hair further, and even stuck a piece of toilet paper to her heel for good measure. When she returned to the table, she found David engaged in conversation with a tall, impeccably dressed man who had stopped by their table. "Maya," David said as she approached, "this is—" "Elijah," the stranger interrupted, extending his hand to Maya with a smile that transformed his serious face. "Elijah Carter. I'm an old friend of David's. Hope you don't mind the interruption." Maya took his hand, suddenly very aware of how ridiculous she looked. Something about this man's intense gaze made her feel like he could see right through her charade. "Not at all," she managed. "Elijah and I worked together briefly at Morgan Stanley," David explained, though he looked slightly confused, "before he went off to build his empire." "Ancient history," Elijah said smoothly. "I just wanted to say hello when I saw you." He turned to Maya. "David always had excellent taste. I can see that hasn't changed." Before either of them could respond, Elijah nodded politely and returned to his table, leaving Maya staring after him, puzzled by the brief interaction and the strange flutter in her chest when he'd looked directly at her. Back at his table, Elijah smiled to himself. The first move had been made. Maya couldn't stop thinking about the strange encounter with Elijah Carter as she returned to her sabotage mission. There was something unsettling about the way he had looked at her, not with the polite disregard or concealed shock she'd been getting from other diners, but with a kind of amused understanding, as if he knew exactly what she was doing. "So, you know Elijah Carter?" she asked David, trying to sound casual as she deliberately spilled a bit of sauce on the tablecloth. David dabbed at the spill with his napkin. "Not well. We overlapped at the firm for maybe 6 months before he left to start his company. He probably wouldn't remember me if we hadn't been assigned to the same project. That's why I was surprised when he came over." He looked thoughtful. "Actually, I don't think I've ever seen him acknowledge anyone in public like that before." "Oh? Is he some kind of big shot?" Maya asked, genuinely curious despite herself. David laughed. "You could say that. Elijah Carter is probably the most successful entrepreneur in the city, self-made billionaire by 30. Built Carter Enterprises from scratch. They do everything from tech to real estate development. He glanced over at Elijah's table. He's known for being brilliant but distant, not exactly warm and fuzzy. Maya followed his gaze. Elijah was sitting alone, seemingly focused on his meal, but she had the strange feeling he was aware of their attention. "Well, he seemed perfectly friendly to me," she said, turning back to David. "That's the surprising part," David replied. "I've read interviews where his own executives call him intimidatingly reserved. The business press calls him the Iceman." As their main courses arrived, Maya found herself increasingly distracted. Her sabotage efforts continued. She laughed too loudly, chewed with her mouth slightly open, and even pretended to take a phone call in the middle of David's story about his recent trip to Japan. But her heart wasn't in it anymore. Part of her attention remained fixed on the solitary figure several tables away. At one point, she caught Elijah looking directly at her. Instead of glancing away, he held her gaze for a moment, the corner of his mouth lifting in a barely perceptible smile. Maya quickly looked down at her plate, her cheeks warming beneath her ridiculous makeup. "Are you feeling all right?" David asked, noticing her discomfort. "We can leave if you're not enjoying yourself." Maya felt a pang of guilt. David had been nothing but kind all evening, patiently enduring her increasingly desperate attempts to disgust him. He deserved better than being the target of her weird scheme. "Actually, David, I should be honest with you," she began, deciding to come clean. "I've been—" She was interrupted by the arrival of the maitre d' at their table, looking slightly flustered. "Excuse me, Mr. Chen, Miss Johnson. I have a message for you," he said, handing David a folded note on the restaurant's heavy stationery. David opened it, his eyebrows rising in surprise as he read. "It seems our dinner has been taken care of," he said. In elegant handwriting, the note read, "David, consider this repayment for your insights during the Westlake project. Ms. Johnson, it was a pleasure to meet you. Your artistic perspective on Peter's work carries more weight than you realize. E.C." Maya looked up in shock, her eyes immediately finding Elijah's table now empty. "He's gone," David said, following her gaze. "And apparently he's picked up our check. That's unprecedented." Maya felt oddly disappointed. How did he know about my comments on Peter's work? We hadn't discussed that before he came over. David looked equally confused. "And how did he know your last name?" "I don't think I mentioned it." A waiter approached with dessert menus, but David waved them away. "I think we're finished, thank you." Outside the restaurant, David hailed a taxi for Maya. The evening had shifted into something neither of them had anticipated, and an awkward silence had fallen between them. "Maya," David said as the taxi pulled up, "I had a nice time tonight, despite—" Maya felt her face burn with shame. "Look, David, I should explain." "No need," he said with a kind smile. "We all have our reasons for the things we do. For what it's worth, even with the, creative makeup choices—" Maya thanked him, relieved by his graciousness, but still embarrassed. As she settled into the taxi, David leaned in through the window. "One more thing," he said. "I've known a lot of people in finance. The really successful ones can read people like books." He glanced meaningfully back at the restaurant. "Just something to think about." As the taxi pulled away, Maya wiped at her face with a tissue, smearing the garish makeup further. Her mind was racing, piecing together the events of the evening. The way Elijah had appeared at their table, the specific mention of her comments about Peter's work in his note, his knowledge of her last name. A cold realization washed over her. What if he had somehow overheard her earlier? What if he had been watching? She thought back to the beginning of the evening, to her private moment, using the tinted window of that luxury car as a mirror. The Bentley. A car exactly like someone of Elijah Carter's status would own. "Oh my God," she whispered, horror dawning on her face as the pieces fell into place. The tinted windows, the slight movement she'd vaguely registered but ignored. He must have been inside the car the entire time, watching as she deliberately made herself look ridiculous. The taxi driver glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "Everything okay back there, miss?" Maya couldn't answer. She was too busy dying of mortification, sinking low in the seat as if she could disappear entirely. Meanwhile, in his penthouse across town, Elijah Carter stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, a rare smile playing on his lips as he thought about the woman who had used his car window as a vanity mirror. A woman who had deliberately sabotaged her own appearance for reasons he couldn't yet fathom, but was determined to discover. He looked down at the business card in his hand. Maya Johnson, Senior Curator, Hammond Gallery. It hadn't been difficult for his assistant to find her information once he knew her name and profession. "Maya Johnson," he said aloud, testing the name in the empty room. "What were you running from tonight?" For the first time in years, Elijah felt a spark of genuine curiosity about another person. Tomorrow, he decided, he would pay a visit to the Hammond Gallery. The Hammond Gallery was quiet the next morning, the kind of peaceful quiet that Maya loved. Early mornings before the doors opened to the public were her favorite time, just her and the art, communing in the pristine white space. Usually, this was when she felt most at peace, most herself. Not today. Today, she was exhausted and embarrassed. After her late-night revelation about who had been in the Bentley, she'd barely slept, replaying the mortifying scenario over and over in her mind. How could she have been so stupid? Using a stranger's car as a mirror was presumptuous enough, but to have that stranger turn out to be Elijah Carter, billionaire, renowned businessman, apparently the Iceman himself, made it 1,000 times worse. And then for him to witness her deliberately botching her date, to watch her act like a complete fool. Maya groaned, burying her face in her hands as she sat at her desk in the gallery's back office. Her phone dinged with a text from Tasha. "How was the date with David? Did he pass the test? He's texting me for your number, so I'm guessing it wasn't a total disaster." Maya wasn't ready to explain the whole bizarre situation. She typed back a non-committal, "Tell you later," and set her phone aside. She needed to focus on work. The new exhibition was opening in 3 days, and there were still a dozen details to finalize. She emerged from her office into the main gallery space, where installation of the new exhibition was nearly complete. Reflections in Diaspora featured works by contemporary artists exploring themes of identity, migration, and belonging, including the Olawale Peters installation she had discussed with David the night before. Maya stood before the Peters installation, a complex arrangement of mirrors and family photographs that created an infinite regression of reflections. Normally, the piece moved her deeply. Today, it just reminded her of her own reflection in the tinted window of Elijah Carter's Bentley. Beautiful work. The deep voice behind her made Maya freeze. No, it couldn't be. Slowly, she turned around. Elijah Carter stood a few feet away, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that looked like it cost more than her monthly salary. In the bright gallery lighting, she could see details she'd missed in the restaurant's dim ambiance: the sharp intelligence in his dark eyes, the slight curl to his short black hair, the strong line of his jaw. "Mr. Carter," she managed, grateful that she'd at least remembered to wash off all the ridiculous makeup from the night before. "The gallery isn't open to the public yet." "I know. I called ahead and spoke with the director. Mentioned I was interested in acquiring some pieces for the new Carter Tower lobby." His voice was calm, measured, but there was a hint of amusement in his eyes. She was quite accommodating. Of course she was. Maya thought. Susan would roll out the red carpet for someone like Elijah Carter. The gallery always needed wealthy patrons. I see, Maya said, trying to maintain professional composure. Well, welcome to Hammond Gallery. Is there a particular style or artist you're interested in? I'm particularly interested in Peter's work, he said, nodding toward the installation. After hearing your passionate analysis last night, I wanted to see it for myself. Maya felt her cheeks warm. So he had been eavesdropping on her conversation with David. Yes. The fractured sense of self. The way identity gets reflected and distorted through migration. Elijah finished, quoting her exact words from the night before. That's what you were saying before you stopped yourself. Maya stared at him, momentarily speechless. Not only had he been listening, but he'd remembered her words verbatim. Mr. Carter. Elijah, please? Elijah, she continued, deciding to face the elephant in the room. About last night. I think we both know that I used your car window as a mirror without realizing you were inside. I apologize for the invasion of privacy. His expression remained neutral, but his eyes crinkled slightly at the corners. Apology accepted, though it was rather entertaining. What I'm more curious about is why a beautiful woman would deliberately make herself look. He paused, searching for a diplomatic word. Like a train wreck? Maya supplied. I was going to say unconventional, but yes. Maya sighed. There was no point in further embarrassment. I was trying to sabotage my blind date. I didn't want to be there, but I didn't want to be rude by canceling. So I thought if I looked terrible enough, he would be the one to end the evening early. To her surprise, Elijah laughed a rich, genuine sound that transformed his serious face. That's creative problem-solving. Ineffective, as it turned out, but creative. David was annoyingly nice about the whole thing, Maya admitted, finding herself smiling despite her embarrassment. He always was a decent person, Elijah agreed, though I barely knew him. You remembered enough to stop by our table and pretend you were old friends, Maya pointed out. Elijah had the grace to look slightly abashed. I was curious. It's not every day you see someone execute such an elaborate plan to escape a pleasant dinner. They had been walking slowly through the gallery as they talked, stopping now before a large canvas of abstract shapes in vibrant reds and golds. Why didn't you want to be on the date? Elijah asked, his attention seemingly on the painting. David seemed perfectly adequate. Adequate isn't enough, Maya said without thinking. Not anymore. Elijah turned to her, his gaze intensifying. What would be enough? Maya looked away, uncomfortable with his directness. I don't know. Maybe nothing. The way I focus on mine? He asked, and there was a note of something like self-deprecation in his voice. You seem to have done well with that approach, Maya observed. Professionally, yes. He paused, then added so quietly she almost didn't hear it. Otherwise, the jury's still out. An awkward silence fell between them. Maya wasn't sure what to make of this conversation. Why was Elijah Carter really here? Surely not just to discuss her dating disasters or even to buy art. Mr. Carter, Elijah, she corrected herself. I'm not sure why you're really here, but have dinner with me, he said abruptly. Maya blinked. What? Dinner. Tonight. A real dinner, not a sabotaged one. His usual confident demeanor seemed to waver slightly. Unless you're planning to smear lipstick all over your face again. Why? Maya asked, genuinely confused. Elijah considered the question seriously. Because in all my years in business, I've never seen anyone approach a problem quite the way you did last night. It was refreshingly honest, even if the execution was unorthodox. I'd like to know more about how your mind works. So this is professional curiosity? Maya asked, trying to understand. Let's call it personal curiosity, Elijah replied. No pressure, no expectations, just dinner. Maya should have said no. This man had witnessed her at her most ridiculous, had essentially spied on her most embarrassing moment. Yet something about his straightforward manner, the hint of vulnerability beneath his polished exterior, made her hesitate. "I don't think. I promise not to park my car where you might be tempted to use it as a vanity mirror," he added with a smile that transformed his face. Despite herself, Maya laughed. "You're never going to let me live that down, are you?" "Not any time soon, no." Maya looked at him, really looked. Beyond the expensive suit and the powerful persona was a man who seemed genuinely interested in her, quirks and all. It was intriguing. "All right," she found herself saying. "Dinner. But somewhere casual. No fancy restaurants where people will wonder why you're dining with someone so far beneath your tax bracket." "Deal," Elijah said, and for a moment he looked almost boyishly pleased. "I know just the place. I'll pick you up at 7? Before Maya could tell him that she didn't need to be picked up, that she could meet him wherever they were going, he handed her a business card. "My personal number," he explained. "Text me your address." "And Maya?" His expression grew serious again. "Come as yourself this time. No sabotage necessary." As he turned to leave, Maya called after him, "Wait, what about the art? Weren't you here to look at pieces for your building?" Elijah glanced back with a small smile. "I'll be in touch about that too. The Peters piece is definitely a contender." After he left, Maya stood in the empty gallery, his business card between her fingers, wondering what strange twist of fate had turned her embarrassing blind date disaster into whatever this was. Her phone buzzed with another text from Tasha. "Hello? Details about David, please." Maya stared at the message, then at Elijah's card, and began to laugh. How could she possibly explain that her attempt to sabotage a blind date had somehow led to dinner plans with one of the city's most eligible bachelors? She typed back, "Change of plans. Having dinner with someone else tonight. Long story. We'll call you tomorrow." Then she tucked Elijah's card into her pocket and returned to her office, her step lighter than it had been all morning. Maya stood in front of her closet having the most stereotypical, nothing-to-wear crisis of her life. What does one wear to a casual dinner with a billionaire? Her phone rang Tasha for the 3rd time that day. You can't just drop a bomb like having dinner with someone else's and not explain, Tasha said when Maya answered. "Who is this mystery person? Did you meet someone at the gallery? What happened with David?" "It's complicated," Maya sighed. "Remember how I told you I was going to sabotage the date with David?" "Yeah, your ridiculous plan that I told you not to do," Tasha replied. "Well, I did it anyway. But it gets worse or better? I'm not sure which. While I was using a car window as a mirror to mess up my makeup, the owner of the car was inside watching the whole thing." "Oh my God," Tasha gasped. "That's mortifying." "It gets better. The guy in the car turned out to be Elijah Carter." The silence on the other end was profound. Then Tasha's voice, unnaturally high. "Elijah Carter? The Elijah Carter?" "That's the one," Maya confirmed. "And now, for reasons I can't begin to understand, he showed up at my gallery this morning and asked me to dinner." There was a crash on the other end of the line, as if Tasha had dropped her phone. After some fumbling sounds, her voice returned, now almost a whisper. "Maya Johnson, if you're messing with me, I will never forgive you." "I'm not," Maya assured her. "I'm just as confused as you are. He said he was curious about me because of how I handled the situation last night." "Handled? You mean how you deliberately made yourself look like a clown?" "Yes. Thanks for the reminder," Maya groaned. "Apparently he found it interesting." "Girl," Tasha said slowly, "do you realize what this means? The man Forbes called the most eligible bachelor in America just asked you out." "It's not a date," Maya corrected quickly. "It's just dinner. He probably wants to understand the psychology behind my weird behavior or something, like I'm some kind of case study." Uh-huh, Tasha replied, clearly unconvinced. And that's why you're having a closet crisis right now, isn't it? Because it's just dinner. Maya sighed, staring at the array of clothes before her. Fine, help me figure out what to wear, he said casual. But what does that even mean to someone like him? After 30 minutes of Tasha's fashion advice and pep talks, Maya settled on dark jeans, a simple but elegant emerald green silk blouse that complemented her skin tone, and low heels. Classic, but not trying too hard. Her natural curls framed her face, and she applied minimal makeup just enough to enhance her features, nothing like last night's disaster. At exactly 7:00 p.m., her doorbell rang. Maya took a deep breath, smoothed her blouse, and opened the door. Elijah Carter stood there, and the sight of him momentarily took her breath away. He wore dark jeans and a light blue button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up to reveal strong forearms. Without the formal business suit, he looked younger, more approachable, but no less striking. "Hi," she said, suddenly feeling shy. "Hi," he replied, his eyes taking her in. "You look beautiful." "Thanks," Maya said, feeling her cheeks warm. "You clean up pretty well yourself." A small smile played at his lips. "I'm glad you approve. Ready to go?" Maya grabbed her purse and jacket, then followed him down to the street where, to her surprise, there was no luxury car waiting. Instead, Elijah led her to a midnight blue motorcycle parked at the curb. "This is our transportation tonight," he explained, handing her a helmet. "Unless you'd prefer a car, I can call my driver." Maya looked at the sleek machine, then back at Elijah. This was unexpected. "No, this is perfect," she said, taking the helmet. "I haven't been on a motorcycle in years." "It's the best way to see the city," Elijah said, putting on his own helmet. "And harder for people to recognize me." He swung his leg over the bike and waited for her to do the same. After a moment's hesitation, Maya climbed on behind him. "You'll need to hold on," he said over his shoulder. Tentatively, Maya placed her hands on his waist, feeling the solid warmth of him beneath her fingers. Elijah kick-started the motorcycle, and they pulled away from the curb, merging into the evening traffic. As they wove through the city streets, Maya felt a freedom she hadn't experienced in a long time. The wind rushing past, the vibration of the engine, the need to hold tightly to Elijah hit all combined to create a kind of exhilaration that pushed away her anxieties about the evening ahead. 20 minutes later, they arrived in a neighborhood Maya didn't immediately recognize, an older, industrial area that appeared to be in the early stages of gentrification. Elijah parked the motorcycle in front of a nondescript brick building with a simple sign, "Rosa's." "Best food in the city," he said as he helped Maya off the bike. "And no one will bother us here." Inside, Rosa's was warm and inviting, exposed brick walls, wooden tables, and soft lighting from vintage fixtures. The mouth-watering aroma of spices filled the air. A middle-aged woman with silver-streaked black hair approached them with a broad smile. "Elijah, it's been too long," she said, embracing him warmly. "Rosa," he returned the hug with genuine affection. "This is Maya." Rosa turned to Maya with appraising eyes, then broke into a wider smile. "Welcome to my restaurant, Maya. Any friend of Elijah's is family here." She led them to a corner table, partially secluded by a bookshelf filled with well-worn novels. "The usual, Elijah?" she asked. "Please," he nodded. "For both of us, if Maya trusts me to order." Maya raised an eyebrow but nodded. "I'll take a leap of faith." After Rosa left, Maya looked around the cozy space. "This is definitely not what I expected." "What did you expect?" Elijah asked, leaning back in his chair. "I don't know. Some exclusive club with a 10-year waiting list? A private chef in your penthouse? Not this. It's wonderful, by the way," she added quickly. Elijah's expression softened. Rosa was my neighbor when I first moved to the city. I was 22, dead broke, and she would bring me leftovers from the small restaurant where she worked. He glanced around the space. When my company took off, my first big splurge was helping her open her own place. I still come here whenever I need to remember where I started. Maya studied him with new interest. That doesn't exactly fit with your Iceman reputation. Most things that matter don't make it into press releases, he replied simply. Their conversation was interrupted as Rosa returned with 2 glasses of wine and a basket of freshly baked bread. First course will be out soon. Enjoy, you two. As they broke bread together, the initial awkwardness between them began to dissolve. Maya found herself telling Elijah about her work at the gallery, her passion for helping emerging artists gain recognition, particularly those from underrepresented communities. Art should challenge us to see the world differently, she explained, gesturing with her bread. It should make us uncomfortable sometimes, force us to confront truths we might prefer to ignore. That's why I'm drawn to Peter's work, Elijah said. The way he uses reflections to create both connection and distortion, it's a powerful metaphor for how we see ourselves versus how others see us. Maya paused, bread halfway to her mouth. That's exactly what I was trying to express in the exhibition notes. Great minds, Elijah said with a slight smile, raising his glass in a small toast. The food arrived a parade of dishes that Rosa brought out herself. Fragrant paella, grilled seafood with herbs, roasted vegetables in a sauce Maya couldn't quite identify but found addictive. This is amazing, she said after the first few bites. How is this place not packed every night? It usually is, Elijah said. Rosa closes to the public on Mondays. This is her family meal night. She makes an exception for me occasionally. So we have the whole restaurant to ourselves? Maya looked around, suddenly more aware of the intimate setting. Is that okay? Elijah asked, watching her reaction carefully. Maya considered for a moment, then nodded. Yes, actually. It's nice not to worry about people staring at us and wondering why you're having dinner with someone like me. Elijah's brow furrowed. Someone like you? You know what I mean, Maya said, focusing on her food. I'm not exactly in your social circle. My social circle is overrated, Elijah replied dryly. Mostly people who want something from me, or want to be seen with me. It gets old. Is that why you're having dinner with the crazy lady who used your car as a vanity mirror? Maya asked with a self-deprecating smile. For a change of pace? Elijah set down his fork and looked at her directly. I'm having dinner with you because in the 30 seconds I watched you transform yourself from beautiful to bizarre, I saw more authenticity than I've encountered in years of business dinners and charity galas. Maya didn't know how to respond to that. The intensity in his eyes, the directness of his statement, it left her momentarily speechless. I'm sorry, he said, breaking the tension. That was too much. No, Maya said quickly. It's just not what I'm used to hearing, especially not from someone like. She caught herself. Someone like me? Elijah finished with a hint of amusement. I was going to say someone I just met. Maya lied, and they both knew it. The conversation shifted to safer territory, books they'd read, places they'd traveled, music they enjoyed. Maya was surprised to discover how much they had in common despite their different worlds. Elijah was well-read and thoughtful, with opinions that challenged her own in interesting ways. Over dessert, a decadent flan that Rosa insisted they try, Maya finally asked the question that had been on her mind all evening. Why did you really ask me to dinner, Elijah? The truth. Elijah considered the question, turning his dessert spoon between his fingers. Curiosity, at first, he admitted. I wanted to know what would drive someone to do what you did. But then, when I met you at the gallery, he paused, choosing his words carefully. How you didn't try to impress me or pretend to be someone you're not. That's rare in my experience. Even though what I did was completely ridiculous? Maya asked. Especially because of that, Elijah said with a smile. It was honest, if nothing else. As the evening wound down, Rosa brought them coffee and refused Elijah's attempt to pay. Family doesn't pay, she insisted, patting his cheek before retreating to the kitchen. Outside, the night had grown cooler. Elijah draped his jacket over Maya's shoulders as they walked to the motorcycle. Thank you for tonight, Maya said, looking up at him. It wasn't what I expected. In a good way, I hope? In a very good way, she confirmed. The ride back to her apartment was quiet, the city lights streaming past them like stars. Maya held on to Elijah more confidently now, allowing herself to enjoy the closeness, the solid warmth of him against the cool night air. At her door, an awkward moment stretched between them, that universal uncertainty at the end of a night that wasn't officially a date, but felt like something more. I'd like to see you again, Elijah said simply. Maya studied his face, trying to read his intentions. Why? Because for the first time in a long time, I'm not thinking about work or deals or the next acquisition. I'm just here, with you. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted, and tucked a loose curl behind her ear. Maya felt her heart quicken at his touch. Okay, she said softly. I'd like that too. Elijah smiled, a real smile that transformed his usually serious face. Good. I'll call you tomorrow? Maya nodded. As he turned to leave, she called after him. Elijah? He looked back, eyebrows raised in question. Next time. I promise not to use your windows as makeup mirrors. His laugh echoed in the hallway as he walked away, leaving Maya standing at her door, wondering what strange twist of fate had brought Elijah Carter into her life, and where it might lead them next. 3 weeks after their first dinner at Rosa's, Maya stood in front of the bathroom mirror in her apartment, carefully applying mascara. Tonight was the opening gala for the new exhibition at Hammond Gallery, an event she'd been planning for months, the culmination of countless hours of work with the featured artists. It was also the first time she would be seen publicly with Elijah. The past weeks had been a whirlwind. After their dinner at Rosa's, Elijah had called the next day as promised. They'd met for coffee that weekend, then a walk through the botanical gardens, then a jazz club the following Wednesday. Each meeting revealed new layers to the man behind the billion-dollar empire: his dry humor, his thoughtful nature, his surprising knowledge of everything from Renaissance art to underground hip-hop. Maya's phone chimed with a text from Tasha. On a scale of 1-10, how nervous are you about tonight? 15, Maya replied honestly. What if everyone thinks I'm just some gold digger who somehow tricked Elijah Carter into dating her? Then they're idiots, came Tasha's immediate response. Besides, anyone who's seen you two together can tell he's crazy about you. Even Susan from the gallery noticed, and she's oblivious to everything except art and her cats. Maya smiled, but the knot of anxiety in her stomach didn't loosen. Tonight wasn't just about her and Elijah stepping out in public together for the first time. It was about her career, her artists, her vision for the exhibition. Having Elijah there added a whole new layer of complexity and pressure. As if reading her thoughts, another text from Tasha appeared. Remember, this is your night, your exhibition. Elijah is just arm candy. The description of one of the world's most powerful businessmen as arm candy made Maya laugh out loud, easing some of her tension. She finished her makeup, checked her reflection one last time, and headed out. The Hammond Gallery was transformed for the opening. The austere white walls were now alive with vibrant artwork, the space humming with the energy of the invited guests: art critics, collectors, artists, and various cultural luminaries. As the curator, Maya circulated among them, answering questions about the exhibition, introducing artists to potential buyers, making sure everything ran smoothly. She was deep in conversation with a prominent critic when she felt a shift in the room's energy, subtle change in the ambient noise, a redirection of attention toward the entrance. Without turning, she knew Elijah had arrived. When she did look, her breath caught. He stood in the doorway, commanding in a perfectly tailored black suit, his presence immediately drawing eyes. But his gaze was fixed solely on her, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Maya excused herself from the critic and made her way to Elijah, aware of the whispers and glances that followed her progress across the room. "You're late," she said when she reached him, keeping her voice light despite her nerves. "Conference call ran long," he explained, leaning in to kiss her cheek. "You look stunning. And the exhibition?" He glanced around the space. "It's magnificent, Maya, truly." The pride in his voice warmed her. "Thank you. I'm glad you could make it." "I wouldn't miss it." His hand found the small of her back, a gesture both protective and possessive. "Now, introduce me to these artists whose work you've been raving about." For the next hour, they moved through the gallery together. Maya was in her element, explaining the concepts behind the exhibition, sharing the stories of the artists she'd cultivated relationships with over years. Elijah listened attentively, asked thoughtful questions, and seemed genuinely interested in understanding the art. His presence changed the dynamic of the evening, though. Collectors who had been hesitant suddenly showed keen interest in acquiring pieces. Critics who might have been dismissive were now attentive. The Elijah Carter effect was undeniable, and while part of Maya appreciated the boost this would give the exhibition, another part of her felt uneasy. Was the art being valued for its own merit, or because of the billionaire at her side? During a brief moment alone by the bar, Susan, the gallery director, sidled up to Maya. "Well played," she murmured. "Excuse me?" Maya asked, her guard instantly up. "Carter." Susan nodded in his direction. "I knew you were good, Maya, but landing the biggest fish in the sea? That's impressive even for you." She sipped her champagne. "And the publicity for the gallery is priceless." Maya felt her cheeks burn. We're not," she stammered. "Elijah and I are seeing each other, yes, but it has nothing to do with the gallery or my career." Susan gave her a knowing look. "Of course not, dear. I'm just saying it's good for everyone involved." She patted Maya's arm and drifted away, leaving Maya staring after her, a sick feeling in her stomach. Across the room, Elijah was now in conversation with one of the artists, his expression engaged and respectful. As if sensing her gaze, he looked up, caught her eye, and smiled a private smile meant only for her. Despite the warmth that smile usually brought her, the sour taste of Susan's insinuation lingered. The evening wore on. The exhibition was a clear success, several pieces sold. Critics seemed impressed, and the artists were happy with the reception of their work. By any measure, it was a triumph for Maya professionally. But as the crowd began to thin, her earlier unease had crystallized into something more definite. "Ready to go?" Elijah asked, appearing at her side as the last guests were leaving. "I thought we might celebrate at my place. I have a bottle of champagne chilling." Maya hesitated. "I should help with the cleanup. Make sure everything—" "Ms. Johnson," interrupted one of the gallery assistants, "we've got everything handled here. You should go celebrate. The show is a huge success." Finding no reasonable excuse, Maya nodded. "All right, let me just grab my things." In Elijah's sleek Bentley, very one she'd used as a mirror that fateful night, Maya was uncharacteristically quiet, staring out at the city lights as they drove toward his penthouse. "Is everything okay?" Elijah asked, his hand finding hers in the darkness. "You seem distant." Maya turned to him, studying his face in the shadows. "Did you buy anything tonight?" "3 pieces," he replied. "The Peters installation we discussed. the large canvas by Adatola, and one of the mixed media pieces by Chen. They'll be perfect for the new building lobby. Would you have bought them if you weren't dating me? The question came out more bluntly than she'd intended. Elijah's brow furrowed. What are you asking, Maya? I'm asking if you're interested in the art, or if you're just trying to help me. The car slowed to a stop at a red light, casting a red glow over both their faces. Elijah turned to her fully now. I bought those pieces because they're extraordinary works of art that spoke to me. The fact that you curated them, that you helped bring these artists to prominence, only makes them more meaningful to me. But would you even have seen them if not for me? Maya pressed. Maybe not, he admitted. But what's your point? That I shouldn't appreciate art that you introduced me to? That I shouldn't support your exhibition? People think I'm using you, Maya said quietly, as the light turned green and the car moved forward again. Or that you're using your influence to boost my career. Either way, it makes everything I've worked for feel tainted somehow. Elijah was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was carefully controlled. Does it matter what people think? It shouldn't, Maya sighed. But it does. I've worked so hard to be taken seriously, to build my reputation based on my eye for talent, my understanding of art. And now, in one night, I'm suddenly Elijah Carter's girlfriend first and a curator second. They had arrived at his building, the car pulling into the private underground garage. Instead of getting out, Elijah turned off the engine and shifted to face her. Maya, he said gently, I understand professional pride better than most, but isn't it possible that both things can be true? That you're an exceptional curator who happens to be dating me? That I'm genuinely interested in the art you've dedicated your life to? His words made sense, but the doubt had taken root. What if we weren't dating? She asked. Would you still have come tonight? Would you still have spent thousands on art from my exhibition? Elijah's expression turned serious. I can't answer hypotheticals. All I know is that I'm drawn to you, your passion, your integrity, your unique way of seeing the world. The art you champion reflects those qualities. So yes, I'm interested in it because I'm interested in you. The two things are connected. Maya didn't have a ready answer. The line between personal and professional had blurred the moment she and Elijah began seeing each other. Perhaps it was inevitable. Come upstairs, Elijah said softly. We don't have to have all the answers tonight. After a moment's hesitation, Maya nodded. They rode the private elevator to his penthouse in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. Elijah's home was exactly what Maya had imagined it would be: spacious, elegant, with clean lines and stunning views of the city through floor-to-ceiling windows. But what surprised her were the personal touches books everywhere. A record player with vinyl albums stacked beside it, photographs of family and friends. It wasn't the cold showplace apartment she might have expected from the Iceman. As Elijah went to get the champagne, Maya wandered to one wall where several paintings hung. She recognized the style immediately: Leroy Campbell, a mid-career artist she'd featured in one of her first exhibitions years ago. You have Campbell originals, she said when Elijah returned with 2 glasses. Yes, he replied, handing her a glass. I bought them 5 years ago at a small gallery across town. The Hammond Gallery, I believe it was. Maya turned to him in surprise. 5 years ago? That was my first major show as a junior curator. Elijah smiled. I know. I was there. You spoke about Campbell's work with such conviction, such clarity. I didn't meet you that night, but I remembered your name. You were at my first show? Maya could hardly believe it. You knew who I was before the car window incident? Not well, Elijah admitted. I remembered a passionate young curator who made me see Campbell's work in a new light. I bought 2 pieces that night based solely on your presentation. He gestured to the paintings. When I saw you using my car window as a mirror, I didn't immediately place you. But later, at the restaurant, When you were talking about art with David, something clicked. Maya stared at him, processing this revelation. I was curious about the connection, he said. The curator I remembered and the woman who deliberately sabotaged her date. Two sides of the same person. Maya moved to the window, looking out at the city lights as she sipped her champagne. Does it? Elijah came to stand beside her. Or does it simplify them? I was drawn to your mind, your passion for art, long before I knew anything else about you. Maya turned to face him, searching his eyes for the truth. I need to know that whatever this is between us won't undermine everything I've worked for. My reputation, my credibility, they matter to me. They matter to me too, Elijah said seriously. I would never want to diminish what you've built. He set down his glass and took her free hand in both of his. Maybe we need to be more careful about how we navigate the intersection of our personal and professional lives. Set some boundaries. I don't want to lose what we're building together. The vulnerability in his voice, so different from his public persona, touched something in Maya. She knew he was right. There was no perfect solution, no way to completely separate their relationship from their respective careers. Life was messier than that, full of complications and gray areas. I don't want to lose it either, she admitted quietly. Relief washed over Elijah's face. He drew her closer, one hand coming up to cup her cheek. Then we'll figure it out, together. As his lips met hers, Maya felt some of her doubts recede. Not disappear entirely, she was too pragmatic for that, but enough to make room for hope. Hope that what they were building might be strong enough to withstand the complications, the whispers, the doubts. For tonight at least, that was enough. The headline glared at Maya from her computer screen. Art World's power couple, billionaire Elijah Carter and curator Maya Johnson make waves. The article, published in one of the city's most read culture blogs, featured a photo of them at the exhibition opening. Elijah's hand at the small of her back as they admired one of the installations. It had been a month since that night, a month of navigating their growing relationship while trying to maintain professional boundaries. They'd been careful. Elijah had stopped attending her gallery events, instead viewing exhibitions privately. Maya had recused herself from any acquisition decisions involving his company's art collection. They'd tried to keep their relationship low-key, out of the public eye. Clearly, it hadn't been enough. The article itself wasn't negative. If anything, it was fawning, praising the synergy between the business titan and the art world visionary. It highlighted the record sales from Maya's recent exhibition, the increased profile of Hammond Gallery, and the growing interest in the artists she championed. That was precisely what bothered her. The implication that her success was tied to Elijah's influence rather than her own merit. Her office phone rang, jolting her from her thoughts. It was Susan. Have you seen the article? The gallery director asked without preamble. Unfortunately, Maya replied. It's magnificent publicity, Susan gushed. My phone has been ringing all morning, collectors wanting to get on the waiting list for our next exhibition, artists begging to be considered for shows. We should capitalize on this momentum. Maya felt a knot forming in her stomach. Susan, I don't think. I've scheduled a meeting for tomorrow morning. I want to discuss restructuring our upcoming calendar. We need to strike while the iron is hot. 9 a.m. my office. After hanging up, Maya sat staring at the blank screen, a sense of dread washing over her. This was exactly what she'd feared, her curatorial vision taking a back seat to her relationship with Elijah. Her phone buzzed with a text from him. Have seen the article. Call me when you can. Instead of calling, Maya grabbed her coat and headed out of the office. She needed air, space to think. The crisp autumn day did little to clear her mind as she walked without direction, eventually finding herself in a small park several blocks from the gallery. She sat on a bench, watching fallen leaves skitter across the path in the breeze. Her phone buzzed again. Tasha this time. You're trending, girl, Maya groaned. Of course she was. Mind if I join you? She looked up to find Elijah standing before her, concern evident in his expression. In his tailored coat and scarf, he looked as out of place in the modest park as a peacock among pigeons. "How did you find me?" she asked as he sat beside her. "Educated guess. You mentioned this park was where you come to think." He studied her face. "The article bothers you." It wasn't a question. In the months they'd been together, Elijah had become attuned to her moods, her concerns. "It's not just the article," Maya sighed. "It's what it represents. Susan wants to completely revamp our exhibition schedule, capitalize on the momentum. She didn't even try to hide that she's more interested in your connection to the gallery than in the art itself." Elijah was quiet for a moment, watching a squirrel dart up a nearby tree. "I don't know," Maya admitted. "I've worked so hard to build something meaningful at Hammond, to create a space that celebrates artists who deserve recognition. I don't want that vision corrupted by me," Elijah finished for her. "By the perception of you," Maya corrected. "By the idea that my success is because of who I'm dating, not because of my own talent and hard work." Elijah nodded slowly. "I understand. More than you might think." He turned to face her fully. "When I started Carter Enterprises, everyone assumed my initial funding came from family money or connections. No one believed that a kid who grew up in a housing project could build something substantial on his own merit." "What did you do?" Maya asked. "I worked twice as hard, made sure my results spoke louder than any rumors or assumptions. But the difference is, I didn't have to worry about people thinking I was successful because of who I was dating." The acknowledgement of his privilege in this one area touched Maya. "It's not fair," she said quietly. "No, it's not." Elijah took her hand. "So what do we do about it?" Maya looked down at their intertwined, fingersure brown hand in his, a simple connection that had somehow complicated everything. "I've been thinking about something. A project I've wanted to pursue for years, but Hammond was never interested." "Tell me," Elijah encouraged. "An independent exhibition series. Focus on emerging artists from underrepresented communities, held in non-traditional spaces. Pop-up galleries in neighborhoods where people don't typically have access to fine art. Educational components for local schools." As she spoke, her voice grew more animated. "Breaking down the barriers that make art seem exclusive or inaccessible." Elijah listened attentively, a small smile playing at his lips. "It sounds perfect for you. Why hasn't Hammond supported it?" "Too risky. Not profitable enough. Doesn't attract the right kind of collectors." Maya shrugged. "Take your pick. And if you didn't have to worry about any of that? If you could focus purely on the artistic and community impact?" Maya looked at him suspiciously. "What are you suggesting?" "Nothing concrete yet," Elijah said carefully. "But I know people who might be interested in funding something like that. Philanthropic foundations that support arts education and community engagement." "Not your foundation," Maya said firmly. "That would defeat the whole purpose of me trying to establish independence." "Understood," Elijah nodded. "But I could make introductions, open doors. What you do once you're through those doors would be entirely up to you and your vision." Maya considered the idea. It was tempting a chance to create something truly her own, something that reflected her values and vision without compromise. But the timing felt suspicious. "It feels like running away," she admitted. "Like I'm letting the rumors win." "Or," Elijah countered, "it's perfect timing. You've built enough recognition to launch something new. The visibility you have right now could help draw attention to exactly the kind of artists and communities you want to support." A gust of wind sent more leaves swirling around them. Maya pulled her coat tighter. "I'd have to leave Hammond." "Yes," Elijah agreed. "But think of what you could build instead." They sat in silence for a few minutes. watching people pass by on the park paths, a mother pushing a stroller, an elderly couple walking hand in hand, a group of students with backpacks and laughter. "I need time to think," Maya finally said. "Of course." Elijah squeezed her hand gently. "Take all the time you need. Just know that whatever you decide, I'm here to support you in whatever way you're comfortable with." That evening, Maya canceled her plans with Elijah and instead invited Tasha over for wine and honest conversation. Her apartment living room became a war room of sorts, with Maya pacing as she laid out the situation while Tasha listened from the couch. "So let me get this straight," Tasha said, refilling their glasses. "You're upset because dating an incredibly hot billionaire who adores you has made you more successful." Maya stopped pacing to glare at her friend. "That's not?" I know. Tasha held up her hands in surrender. "I'm oversimplifying. But seriously, Maya, most people would kill for your problems." "It's not about success," Maya sighed, dropping onto the couch beside her friend. "It's about earning it, about knowing that what I've built is really mine." Tasha's expression softened. "Girl, you've been killing it at Hammond for years, long before Elijah Carter came along. Your eye for talent, your commitment to artists who deserve recognition but haven't gotten it, that's all you. But what you do once those doors are open is still entirely your work." Maya took a long sip of wine. "But what about this new project idea? If I leave Hammond to start something independent, and it succeeds because of connections Elijah helps me make, is it really mine?" "Okay, let me ask you this." Tasha leaned forward. "If you'd met some wealthy art patron at a gallery event, someone with no romantic interest in you whatsoever, and they offered to connect you with foundations to fund your dream project, would you hesitate?" "No," Maya admitted after a moment. "I'd probably jump at the chance. So the only difference is that you're sleeping with this particular connection." Tasha raised an eyebrow. "The question isn't whether to use Elijah's network, it's whether you can handle the whispers and side eyes that might come with it." "When did you get so wise?" Maya asked with a small smile. "I've always been wise. You've just been too busy looking at art to notice." Tasha topped off their glasses again. "Here's my 2 cents. You've earned every bit of success you have. You'll earn whatever comes next, too. Don't let other people's perceptions rob you of opportunities that align with your values." The next morning, Maya arrived at Hammond Gallery early, before her meeting with Susan. She walked through the exhibition one last time, taking in the powerful works she'd helped bring to public attention. Whatever happened next, she was proud of what she'd accomplished here. At precisely 9 a.m., she knocked on Susan's office door. "Maya, come in." Susan's smile was bright, her energy almost manic. "I've been up half the night reimagining our entire program. With your connection to Elijah Carter, we can elevate Hammond to an entirely new level. I'm thinking a gala event with his business associates, perhaps a special curators series with you as the face." "Susan," Maya interrupted firmly, "I need to talk to you about my role here." The gallery director paused, noticing Maya's serious expression for the first time. "What about it?" "I've been thinking about my future at Hammond, about the direction of my curatorial work." Susan's smile faltered slightly. "If this is about a raise, I think we can certainly." "It's not about money," Maya said. "It's about vision. For years, I've wanted to develop more community-focused exhibitions, to bring art to neighborhoods and people who don't typically have access to spaces like Hammond." "That's a lovely sentiment," Susan said dismissively, "but not very practical from a business perspective. Besides, with your new profile, we should be aiming higher, not—" "That's exactly my point," Maya interrupted again. "My vision for my work and Hammond's vision seem to be diverging, and I think it might be time for me to pursue my own path." Susan's smile disappeared entirely. "You're quitting? Now? When we finally have momentum?" "I'm giving my notice," Maya corrected gently. I'll stay through the end of the current exhibition, help train my replacement, ensure a smooth transition. Susan stared at her in disbelief. This is because of him, isn't it? Carter's filling your head with grand ideas, promising to bankroll some pet project? Maya maintained her composure, though she felt heat rising in her cheeks. This decision is mine, based on where I want my career to go. Elijah supports me, but he didn't suggest I leave Hammond. You're making a mistake, Susan warned. Without the Hammond name behind you, without our infrastructure and connections. I've built my own name, Maya said with quiet confidence, and my own connections. I appreciate everything Hammond has given me, Susan, but it's time for me to build something new. The conversation grew tense after that, with Susan alternating between trying to convince Maya to stay and making thinly veiled threats about her future in the art world. By the time Maya left the office, their professional relationship had cooled considerably, but her resolve had only strengthened. As she cleared out her desk later that day, Maya felt a mixture of terror and exhilaration. She had just walked away from job security, institutional backing, and a clear career path. In its place was only possibility undefined, uncertain, but full of potential. Her phone rang. Elijah. How did it go? He asked when she answered. I quit, Maya said, the reality of it still sinking in. How do you feel? Maya looked around her half-packed office, at the exhibition catalog she'd worked so hard on, at the artist's contact information she'd carefully built over years. Terrified, excited, free. Elijah's chuckle was warm through the phone. That sounds about right. When I left my first firm to start Carter Enterprises, I threw up twice the first day from sheer panic. The image of the always composed Elijah in such a state made Maya laugh. That's strangely comforting. Listen, he said, his tone turning more serious. I'm heading to a meeting. Not at your place, Maya decided. Somewhere neutral. I need to keep a clear head if we're going to discuss this. Fair enough. There's a diner near your apartment, Sal's. 8 o'clock? After hanging up, Maya finished packing her personal items. As she was about to leave, Is it true? Zoe asked hesitantly. You're leaving? Maya nodded. Time for a new chapter. To her surprise, Zoe's eyes lit up. Will you still be curating? Because if you are, and if you need any help. She trailed off, suddenly self-conscious. Looking at the eager young woman, Maya felt something click into place. Maybe this wasn't just about her own path. Maybe it was about creating opportunities for others, two people like Zoe, with passion and talent but limited opportunities in traditional gallery spaces. I might be, Maya said with a smile. Let's stay in touch. That night at Salsa No Frills Diner with laminated menus and bottomless coffee, Maya laid out her vision to Elijah. As they sat in a vinyl booth under fluorescent lighting, surrounded by late-night diners who paid them no attention, she spoke with growing enthusiasm about her ideas. I want to create a nomadic gallery, she explained, sketching on a napkin. Pop-up exhibitions in unconventional spaces, vacant storefronts, community centers, school gymnasiums. Bring world-class art directly to neighborhoods that don't have access to traditional galleries. Elijah listened intently, occasionally asking questions but mostly letting her speak. Each exhibition would include educational components workshops for local schools, artist talks, community conversations about the themes in the work, and we'd hire young people from the community as docents, give them experience in the art world. We? Elijah asked, catching the plural. Maya smiled. I already have one eager volunteer, Zoe from Hammond, and I'm thinking of reaching out to some of the art school graduates I've mentored over the years. People with fresh perspectives who aren't yet jaded by the commercial side of the art world. Elijah nodded, his expression thoughtful. It's a powerful vision, Maya, genuinely innovative. But, she prompted, hearing the hesitation in his voice. "No, but," he assured her, "just thinking about logistics. You'll need funding, infrastructure, legal structure. Nonprofit status would make sense, given the educational component." Maya took a deep breath. "That's where I could use your help, not your money," she added quickly, "but your expertise in setting up organizations. And yes, some introductions to foundations that might be interested in funding this kind of work." Elijah reached across the table to take her hand. "I can do that. And Maya, I'll do it in whatever way makes you comfortable. Behind the scenes, arm's length, whatever preserves your independence." She squeezed his hand, grateful for his understanding. "Thank you. And I want to be clear, this isn't about us, about our relationship. This is something I've wanted to do for years." "I know," he said simply. "That's what makes it worth supporting." Over mediocre coffee and slice of pie, they brainstormed names for the new venture. Maya wanted something that conveyed both mobility and connection, that spoke to the mission of bringing art to communities. "Bridge Gallery," Elijah suggested. "Since you're bridging world-shy art and community spaces, established artists, and new audiences." Maya tested the name on her tongue. "Bridge Gallery. I like it." She scribbled it on her napkin, then looked up at Elijah with a mix of determination and vulnerability. "I'm really doing this, aren't I?" "You really are," he confirmed with a smile. "And it's going to be extraordinary." As they left the diner, walking hand in hand under the city's night sky, Maya felt a sense of alignment she hadn't experienced in years. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with challenges she could only begin to anticipate. But for the first time, she was charting her own course, climbing a ladder within an established institution, but building something new that reflected her deepest values. And having Elijah by her side, supporting without controlling, made the leap feel less like falling and more like flying. 3 months after leaving Hammond Gallery, Maya stood in a cavernous former warehouse in West Sidionne, of the city's historically black neighborhoods that had seen decades of disinvestment before recent revitalization efforts. Sunlight streamed through the high windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. "It needs work," admitted Jamal, the community developer who owned the building. "But the bones are good and the price is right for a 3-month lease." Maya walked the space slowly, envisioning how it could transform. The brick walls would make a perfect backdrop for the contemporary paintings she had in mind. The open floor plan offered flexibility for different configurations of art, and the location just blocks from 3 public schools and a community college was ideal for the educational programming she planned. "It's perfect," she decided. "We'll take it." Beside her, Zoe clapped her hands in excitement. The former gallery assistant had become Maya's right hand in launching Bridge Gallery, bringing boundless enthusiasm and a knack for social media that had already built significant buzz around their first exhibition. "When do we get the keys?" Zoe asked eagerly. "End of the week," Jamal replied. "That gives you about a month before your opening, right?" Maya nodded, mentally calculating all that needed to be done: cleaning, lighting installation, painting some of the walls, building movable partitions, not to mention the actual artwork logistics. It was daunting, but exhilarating. After signing the preliminary paperwork, Maya and Zoe walked to a nearby coffee shop to continue planning. The neighborhood was in transition. Family-owned businesses that had been there for generations now sat alongside trendy new establishments. The coffee shop itself was a perfect example, owned by a local family, but recently renovated with a minimalist aesthetic to attract younger clientele. "So," Zoe said, opening her laptop, "I've drafted the press release for the inaugural exhibition. Want to review it?" Maya smiled at her assistant's efficiency. "Absolutely." As they worked, Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Elijah. "Heading into board meeting. Foundation decision should come today." Maya's stomach tightened. The Newell Foundation was considering a significant grant for Bridge Gallery, enough to fund their first year of operations. The connection had come through one of Elijah's business associates, not directly from him, maintaining the arm's-length approach they'd agreed upon. "Everything okay?" Zoe asked, noticing Maya's expression. "Just nervous about the Newell grant," Maya admitted. "We should hear today." Zoe gave her an encouraging smile. "They'd be crazy not to fund us. Our proposal was solid gold." Maya appreciated the vote of confidence, but she knew the reality of arts funding it was competitive, subjective, and often came down to relationships as much as merit. And while she had intentionally not mentioned her relationship with Elijah Carter in the application, she couldn't help wondering if the foundation board knew anyway. The art world was small, and gossip traveled fast. Later that afternoon, as Maya was meeting with a lighting designer at the warehouse, her phone rang with an unknown number. "Maya Johnson," she answered, stepping away for privacy. "Ms. Johnson, this is Eleanor Newell from the Newell Foundation." The woman's voice was crisp, professional. "Yes, hello," Maya replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "Thank you for calling. I'm calling regarding your grant proposal for Bridge Gallery." A pause that felt eternal. "The board has reviewed your application, and we're pleased to inform you that we've decided to award you the full amount requested." Maya closed her eyes, relief washing over her. "That's wonderful news. Thank you so much. The board was particularly impressed with your focus on educational programming and community engagement. It aligns perfectly with our mission." Another pause. "I should mention that we had a rather spirited discussion about your project, given your personal association with Elijah Carter." And there it was, the shadow Maya had feared would fall over her achievement. "I understand," she said carefully. "Mr. Carter had no involvement in the development of Bridge Gallery's mission or programming. He did make the introduction to your foundation, as I noted in my application, but the project is entirely independent." "Yes, we appreciated your transparency on that point," Eleanor replied. "In the end, the strength of your proposal spoke for itself. The grant was approved on its merits unanimously, I might add." After finishing the call, Maya leaned against the brick wall, emotions swirling, pride in the achievement, relief at the funding, but also a lingering discomfort that her relationship with Elijah had been a factor in the discussion at Eleven, if the decision had ultimately been made on the merits of her work. That evening, she met Elijah for dinner at his penthouse to share the news. He'd ordered from her favorite Thai restaurant, setting up dinner on his terrace despite the cool evening air. Heaters created a bubble of warmth as they ate with the city lights spread below them. "To Bridge Gallery," Elijah toasted, raising his wine glass, "and its visionary founder." Maya clinked her glass against his, smiling despite her mixed emotions. The grant came through. "That's incredible, Maya. You've worked so hard for this." "Eleanor Newell mentioned that there was spirited discussion about my connection to you," Maya said, watching his reaction carefully. Elijah set down his glass. "I'm not surprised they discussed it. But the fact that they funded you anyway, that they saw the value of your vision, that's what matters." "Is it, though?" Maya pushed her food around her plate. "I keep wondering if I'm being naive, if all these doors are opening because of who I'm dating, not because of my ideas." Elijah was quiet for a moment, considering. "Maya, do you remember what you said to me about Peter's installation? About how identity gets reflected and distorted through the mirrors of other people's perceptions?" She nodded, surprised at the connection. "Your relationship with me is now part of how the world sees you," he continued. "It's one facet of your identity, reflected and sometimes distorted in ways beyond our control. But it doesn't define you or your work." He leaned forward. "The question is, will you let other people's perceptions limit what you build?" His words resonated with her, touching on themes she had explored in her curatorial work for Yearshow Identity, is shaped both internally and externally. How we navigate the gap between how we see ourselves and how others see us. I want to succeed on my own terms, she said finally, but I'm starting to understand that on my own doesn't mean without any connections or support. It means being true to my vision, regardless of how I got the opportunity to realize it. Elijah smiled, reaching across the table to take her hand. That's what matters. And for what it's worth, I've known Eleanor Newell for years. She doesn't fund anything she doesn't believe in, regardless of who makes the introduction. The conversation shifted to the practical aspects of launching the exhibition, the space Maya had secured, the artist she had confirmed, the community partnership she was building. Elijah listened attentively, asking thoughtful questions, but never imposing his own ideas. "I'd like to see the space," he said as they finished dinner, "if that wouldn't complicate things for you." Maya considered the request. After leaving Hammond, she and Elijah had been careful about their public appearances together, especially in professional contexts. But this was different. Bridge Gallery was her creation, her vision. Perhaps it was time to stop hiding their relationship as if it were something to be ashamed of. "I'd like that," she decided. "Come by tomorrow afternoon? I'll give you the grand tour, such as it is in its current state." The next day, Maya was at the warehouse early, working with a small crew to clean decades of industrial grime from the windows. The space was already transforming, light pouring in where there had been shadow, revealing the potential that had initially caught her eye. When Elijah arrived, he was dressed more casually than usual: jeans, a simple button-down, no tie. It was a subtle acknowledgement that he was entering her world, not bringing his corporate persona into her space. "What do you think?" Maya asked as she led him through the cavernous room, showing him the sketches for how the exhibition would be laid out. Elijah took his time, examining the architecture, the light, the flow of the space. "It has incredible potential," he said finally. "I can see exactly why you chose it. The rawness of the industrial elements will create a fascinating contrast with the contemporary art." His genuine appreciation for her vision warmed Maya. This wasn't polite interest or patronizing approval. He truly understood what she was trying to create. As they were discussing the lighting plan, the warehouse door opened and a group of people entered, a reporter and photographer from the local arts weekly, there for a pre-arranged interview about Bridge Gallery's launch. "Ms. Johnson?" the reporter called. "We're here for the 2:00. Maya had momentarily forgotten the appointment. She glanced at Elijah, a question in her eyes. Should he leave to avoid complicating the story? Should she introduce him as a supporter but downplay their personal connection? Elijah squeezed her hand briefly. "Your call," he said quietly. In that moment, Maya made a decision. She was tired of compartmentalizing, of acting as if her relationship with Elijah somehow undermined her professional accomplishments. "I'll be right with you," she called to the reporter. Then to Elijah, "Stay, be part of this. Just be yourself, not Elijah Carter, billionaire patron of the arts." He smiled, genuine warmth reaching his eyes. "I can do that." The interview went better than Maya could have hoped. She spoke passionately about Bridge Gallery's mission, the upcoming exhibition, and the educational programming she was developing with local schools. When the reporter inevitably asked about Elijah's presence, Maya was straightforward. "Elijah is here in a personal capacity, seeing the space for the first time. While he's been supportive of Bridge Gallery's mission, the conceptualization and execution is entirely independent. The art world is full of personal and professional relationships that coexist. This is no different." The reporter seemed satisfied with the answer, and the conversation returned to the exhibition itself. As the interview concluded, the photographer asked for a few shots of Maya in the space. After taking several of her alone, he gestured to Elijah. "Could we get a few with both of you?" The readers would love it. Maya hesitated, but Elijah followed her lead, standing beside her but not too close, his body language conveying support rather than possession or control. After the media team left, Maya felt a weight lift from her shoulders. "That wasn't so bad," she admitted. "You were magnificent," Elijah said, genuine admiration in his voice. "Clear, passionate, in command of your vision. And honest about us," Maya added. "No more hiding or apologizing." As they walked through the space one last time, planning to head out for a late lunch, the warehouse door opened again. Maya looked up, expecting to see Zoe or one of the contractors. Instead, Susan from Hammond Gallery stood in the entrance, her expression a mixture of surprise and calculation as she took in the scene Maya and Elijah together in the raw space of what would become Bridge Gallery. "Maya," Susan said coolly, "I heard rumors you'd found a space in West Side. I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd see for myself." Her gaze shifted to Elijah. "Carter, how convenient to find you here as well." Maya straightened her spine, refusing to be intimidated. "Susan, welcome to Bridge Gallery. We're still in the early stages, as you can see." "Indeed." Susan's eyes scanned the space critically. "Quite a departure from Hammond's elegance. But I suppose you have to start somewhere," she smiled thinly. "Even with advantages." The implication hung in the air, but Maya refused to take the bait. "We're excited about the location. 3 schools within walking distance, a diverse community, affordable space for artists to actually live and work nearby." Susan nodded absently, her attention more on Elijah than on Maya's words. "Mr. Carter, I've been meaning to reach out. Hammond has an exciting new exhibition planned for fall-emerging artists from East Asia. Right up your alley, given your business interests in the region." Elijah's expression remained politely neutral. "Sounds interesting. Maya has actually introduced me to several remarkable artists from that part of the world over the years." The subtle reminder of their history that his art education had begun long before their romantic relationship was not lost on Susan, whose smile tightened further. "Well," she said briskly, "I should let you get back to whatever this is." She gestured vaguely at the warehouse. "Good luck with your little project, Maya. The art world can be so fickle. One minute you're the toast of the town, the next you're yesterday's news." After she left, Maya released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Well, that was subtle," Elijah remarked dryly. Maya laughed, despite herself. "About as subtle as a sledgehammer." She looked around the raw space, seeing it briefly through Susan's critical eyes: the dusty floors, the peeling paint, the massive amount of work still to be done. For a moment, doubt crept in. Was she making a mistake, risking her career on an unproven concept? As if reading her thoughts, Elijah took her hand. "You know she came here to shake your confidence, right? She's threatened by what you're building. Or concerned about me damaging my reputation with a failed venture," Maya countered. "No," Elijah said firmly. "Threatened. Hammond has been doing the same thing for decades. You're innovating, reaching new audiences, creating something genuinely new. That's always threatening to established institutions." Maya squeezed his hand, drawing strength from his certainty. "You really believe in this, don't you? In me?" "Completely," he said without hesitation. "But more importantly, you believe in it. I can see it in how you talk about the space, the artists, the community you want to engage. This isn't about proving something to Susan or anyone else. It's about creating something true to your vision." In that moment, standing in the dust and potential of her future gallery, Maya felt something shift inside her. The lingering doubt about her path, the nagging worry about perceptions and influences, they didn't disappear entirely, but they receded, making room for something stronger: conviction in her own vision, confidence in her own voice. "You're right," she said. "This is my vision, My creation. Whatever doors open to make it possible, I'm the one walking through them, building something new on the other side." Elijah smiled, a rare full smile that transformed his usually serious face. "That's the Maya Johnson I fell in love with." The words hung in the air between them, spoken so naturally that it took both of them a moment to register their significance. They hadn't said those words to each other before. Maya looked at him, at this complicated man who had entered her life in the most unexpected way, who had challenged her and supported her in equal measure, who saw her truly, saw her as both the professional she was and the woman she was, without diminishing either. "Did you just say you love me?" she asked softly. Elijah didn't back away from the admission. "I did. I do." He stepped closer, his voice low and sincere. "I love your passion, your integrity, your courage to build something new. I love how you push me to be more than just the Iceman everyone expects me to be. I love you, Maya Johnson, independent of anything you do or create." Maya felt tears prick at her eyes, not from sadness or confusion, but from the simple recognition of truth. "I love you too," she said, the words feeling right, feeling like coming home, even when it's complicated, especially when it's complicated. Their kiss, surrounded by dust and promise in the space that would become Bridge Gallery, felt like a beginning of her new venture, of their deeper connection, of a future that would continue to challenge and reward them both. Later, as they walked hand in hand from the warehouse, neither noticed the figure across the street, a reporter who had followed Susan to the location, hoping for a scoop. The photo he captured Maya and Elijah emerging together, faces alight with private joy, would appear in the next day's art section under the headline, "Power Couple Behind Bold New Gallery Venture." The story was already being written, whether they controlled the narrative or not, but for the first time, Maya found she didn't mind. Let them talk. She knew the truth of what she was building, and who she was building it with. "5 minutes, everyone," Maya called out, checking her watch nervously. "Doors open at 7 sharp." The transformed warehouse hummed with last-minute activity. 6 weeks of intensive work had turned the raw industrial space into a stunning gallery. Strategic lighting illuminated the artworks. Movable walls created intimate viewing spaces within the cavernous room. A small stage had been set up for the evening's artist talks. It was the night of Bridge Gallery's inaugural exhibition, Reflections Across Divides, a showcase of works by artists exploring identity across cultural, racial, and economic boundaries. Among them was Olawale Peters, whose mirror installation had been the unexpected catalyst for Maya and Elijah's first meaningful conversation. Zoe hurried over, clipboard in hand. "The caterers are set up, the sound system is tested, and the docents are all briefed. We're ready." She paused, giving Maya an appraising look. "And you look amazing, by the way." Maya smoothed the front of her dress, a striking design by a local fashion student, made from vibrant African wax prints in shades of emerald and gold. "Thanks. Is the community bus program running smoothly?" One of Bridge Gallery's innovations was arranging free transportation from surrounding neighborhoods, ensuring that local residents could easily attend the opening. It was part of Maya's commitment to making the gallery truly accessible to the community it was situated in. "First bus arrived 10 minutes ago. The second is on schedule," Zoe confirmed. "And the youth documentarians are all set up to interview attendees about their experience." Another of Maya's initiatives training local high school students in documentary filmmaking, giving them the opportunity to create a record of the gallery's impact on the community. The resulting film would be shown in schools and community centers, extending the exhibition's reach beyond the physical space. Everything was ready. Everything except Maya herself, who couldn't quite shake her nervousness. This wasn't just another exhibition opening, it was the public debut of her vision, her independent voice in the art world. The stakes felt enormously high. Her phone buzzed with a text from Elijah. "On my way. Traffic. Start without me if needed." They discussed his role in the evening carefully. He would attend, of course, but as Maya's partner rather than in any official capacity. No speeches, no formal recognition. His support had been crucial behind-the-scenes advice on organizational structure, introductions to potential donors, but tonight was about the artists, the community, and Maya's curatorial vision. At precisely 7 o'clock, Maya took a deep breath and nodded to Zoe, who opened the massive front doors. People immediately began streaming in Art World figures who had followed Maya from Hammond, curious locals from the neighborhood, students from the nearby community college, and a healthy contingent of press. The energy was electric. Unlike the hushed, reverential atmosphere of traditional galleries, Bridge Gallery buzzed with conversation, with genuine engagement. Maya moved through the space, greeting guests, introducing artists to collectors, watching with satisfaction as people from vastly different backgrounds found common ground in discussions about the art. The Peters installation drew particular attention now, expanded from its original form, with new elements reflecting the specific history of the West Side neighborhood where the gallery was located. Maya stood nearby, listening as the artist explained his vision to an engaged group that included both seasoned art collectors and local teenagers. The mirrors reflect not just ourselves, but the community around us, Peters was saying. We see ourselves in context, connected to others, even as our individual experiences remain unique. The concept resonated deeply with Maya, especially now. Her own identity had expanded and evolved through her relationship with Elijah, through this new venture, through her deeper engagement with the community around her. The reflection she saw of herself had changed, not distorted, but enriched by these new connections. She felt a warm hand at the small of her back, and turned to find Elijah beside her, having slipped in quietly during Peter's talk. In his simple dark suit, he looked elegant but not ostentatious, deliberately understated. "Sorry I'm late," he murmured. "The exhibition looks incredible, Maya. Truly extraordinary." "You're here now," she said, leaning into him briefly before straightening. "What do you think of the Peters installation in this space?" "Even more powerful than at Hammond," Elijah said, studying the work. "The way it interacts with the industrial architecture, the community context, it has new resonance." They were interrupted by a local reporter who recognized Maya. "Ms. Johnson, congratulations on the opening. Would you mind answering a few questions about Bridge Gallery's mission?" "Of course," Maya agreed. As Elijah began to step away to give her space, she caught his hand. "Stay," she said quietly. "This is part of us too." The interview went smoothly, with Maya articulating her vision for the gallery as a space that bridged traditional art world boundaries between established institutions and communities typically excluded from them, between commercial success and social impact. When the reporter inevitably asked about Elijah's involvement, Maya was straightforward. "Mr. Carter has been supportive of Bridge Gallery as my partner, just as I support his ventures. While we've certainly learned from each other professionally, Bridge Gallery is my vision and my direction." Elijah nodded in agreement. "Maya has built something remarkable here. My role is simply to cheer from the sidelines." After the reporter moved on, Maya was approached by a group of students from the local high school participants in the educational program she developed alongside the exhibition. "Ms. Johnson," one of them said shyly, "we wanted to show you our response project." She handed Maya a small book of photographs and written reflections inspired by the exhibition. Maya leafed through it, genuinely moved by the students' insightful responses to the artwork. "This is beautiful work," she said. "Would you be willing to share it more widely, perhaps as part of our community response wall?" The students beamed with pride, and Maya introduced them to one of the exhibiting artists, who was equally impressed with their project. As they fell into conversation, Maya caught sight of a familiar figure near the entrance. Susan from Hammond Gallery, surveying the space with a critical eye. "I should go say hello to Susan," Maya murmured to Elijah. "Diplomatic relations and all that." "Want me to come with you?" he offered. Maya shook her head. "This one I need to handle myself." She crossed the room to where her former boss stood, examining the exhibition catalog. "Susan, thank you for coming." Maya kept her tone professional but warm. Susan looked up, her expression unreadable. "Maya, quite a turnout you've managed." "We're pleased with the response," Maya said. "The community engagement has exceeded our expectations." Susan's gaze traveled around the room, taking in the diverse crowd, the innovative display design, the energy of the space. "It's certainly different from Hammond's approach." "That was the intention," Maya replied, refusing to be baited into defensiveness. "Some of the artists you've featured are quite promising," Susan admitted reluctantly. "Particularly the new talent. Hammond might be interested in working with a few of them in the future." Maya smiled, recognizing the olive branch for what it was. "I'm sure the artists would appreciate the opportunity. Building bridges between institutions is part of our mission, after all." Susan's eyes drifted to where Elijah stood, deep in conversation with Peters about his installation. He seems genuinely interested in the art, not just playing the part of supportive boyfriend. "He is," Maya confirmed. "Elijah's appreciation for art predates our relationship. He was collecting African American artists long before we met." Susan nodded slowly. "Perhaps I misjudged some aspects of the situation." She straightened, professional mask sliding back into place. "The exhibition is impressive, Maya. Different from what we do at Hammond, but valid in its own way." Coming from Susan, it was high praise indeed. "Thank you, that means a lot." After Susan moved on, Maya circulated through the space, her heart swelling with pride at what she and her small team had accomplished. The exhibition was attracting exactly the mix of people she'd hoped for: art world insiders alongside community members who had never set foot in a gallery before. Conversations were happening across traditional boundaries. Art was being experienced, discussed, questioned by fresh eyes. Around 9 o'clock, Maya gathered everyone for the scheduled artist talks. 3 of the exhibiting artists, including Peters, gave brief presentations about their work, followed by a lively Q, a session with the audience. The questions came from art critics and neighborhood teenagers alike, creating a dialogue that transcended the usual art world hierarchy. After the talks, as the opening continued with music and refreshments, Maya found herself momentarily alone near the back of the gallery. She leaned against a column, taking in the scene before her. The vibrant crowd, the powerful artwork, the space transformed from industrial relic to cultural nexus. Elijah found her there, 2 glasses of champagne in hand. "Taking it all in?" he asked. "Trying to remember every detail," she admitted. "It's everything I hoped it would be." "It's more," Elijah said. "Look at this crowd, Maya. The energy in this room. This isn't just an exhibition opening, it's the beginning of something significant." Maya sipped her champagne, allowing herself to believe it. The hard part comes next. Sustaining it, growing it, making sure it's not just a one-time event, but a lasting presence in the community. "You'll do it," Elijah said with such certainty that Maya couldn't help but believe him. "And you won't do it alone. You've built a team that believes in your vision. You've engaged a community that sees the value in what you're creating. And I have you," Maya added softly, leaning against his shoulder. "Always," he promised. "But tonight isn't about us. It's about what you've created here." He gestured toward the gallery floor. "Go, enjoy it. This is your moment." As Maya moved back into the crowd, she was approached by an elderly woman she recognized from the neighborhood. Patterson, who had lived in West Side for over 60 years and had been skeptical when Maya first approached the community council about her plans for the gallery. "Ms. Johnson," the older woman said, taking Maya's hands in her own, "I need to tell you something." "Of course, Miss Patterson, what is it?" "When you first came to our council meeting talking about bringing fine art to West Side, I thought you were just another outsider with big ideas who'd disappear when things got difficult." She gestured around the gallery. "But you've done something special here. My granddaughter, the one in high school, she's been in your education program, and I've never seen her so excited about anything. She's talking about studying art history now." Maya felt tears prick at her eyes. "That means everything to me, Miss Patterson. Everything. You're building bridges, just like the name says," the older woman continued, "between people who wouldn't normally be in the same room together, between ideas that need to be connected. It's good work, important work." Those words stayed with Maya throughout the remainder of the evening, a touchstone to return to whenever doubts crept in. By the time the last guests departed just after midnight, she was exhausted but exhilarated. The opening had been an unqualified success by any measure of strong sales, positive critical response, genuine community engagement. The small bridge gallery team gathered for a toast after the doors closed. Maya, Zoe, the 2 other staff members they'd hired, and the student interns who had worked tirelessly to make the night a success. Elijah stood slightly apart, giving them their moment of shared accomplishment. "To Bridge Gallery," Maya said, raising her glass, "and to all of you who helped make this vision a reality, this is just the beginning." After the toast, as the team dispersed to their well-deserved rest, Elijah helped Maya gather her things. They walked out together into the quiet night, his arm around her waist, supporting her tired body. "I am so proud of you," he said simply as they reached his car. "What you've created here." "What we've created," Maya corrected gently, turning to face him. "Yes, it's my vision, my direction, but you were right there beside me, believing in it when it was just an idea, helping me navigate the practical challenges, never trying to take control or override my decisions." She took his face in her hands. "We're partners, Elijah." Under the streetlight, his expression was uncharacteristically vulnerable. "I've built companies, made billions, but I've never been part of something like this, something with heart, with purpose beyond profit. Being with you, supporting what you're building, it's changed how I see my own work." "How so?" Maya asked, genuinely curious. "I've always focused on efficiency, on outcomes. Build the tallest building, make the biggest deal, maximize the return." He shook his head slightly. "But you've shown me that how you build matters as much as what you build. The relationships, the communities affected, the people involved in the process, they're not just means to an end." Maya smiled, recognizing the profound shift in his thinking. "The Iceman is thawing." Elijah laughed, pulling her closer. "Long melted, I'm afraid. A certain curator saw to that when she used my car window as a makeup mirror." "Best mistake I ever made," Maya said, rising on tiptoes to kiss him. As they drove away from the gallery, Maya looked back at the illuminated sign they'd installed just that week. Bridge Gallery in simple, bold letters, a beacon in the night. Beyond the success of the opening, beyond the critical acclaim and the sales figures, she felt a sense of rightness. The path forward wouldn't be easy. There would be financial challenges, logistical hurdles, the constant work of balancing artistic integrity with community needs. There would be skeptics like Susan, people who would attribute her success to her relationship with Elijah, rather than her own vision and hard work. But tonight had shown her something important. When you build authentic bridges between art and community, between different worlds, between heart and mind, people will cross them. They will meet in the middle, see new perspectives, form connections they might never have imagined possible. including a billionaire and a curator who had found each other in the most unlikely of circumstances, through a tinted car window that had become an unexpected mirror reflecting possibilities neither could have foreseen. 6 months after Bridge Gallery's opening, Maya sat at her desk in the small office they'd constructed in the back of the warehouse space. Spring sunshine streamed through the windows, illuminating the stack of proposals before her submissions from artists hoping to be included in the gallery's next exhibition cycle. The inaugural show had exceeded all expectations, generating not just critical acclaim but tangible impact in the community. School groups visited daily. Local residents who had never set foot in a traditional gallery were becoming regular attendees. Artists from underrepresented backgrounds were finding new audiences, new opportunities. And Maya was finding a new balance between her curatorial vision and her personal life, between independence and partnership, between artistic integrity and practical sustainability. Her phone buzzed with a text from Elijah. "Meeting running late. Still on for dinner?" Maya smiled, typing back. "Dinner on. Have news too. Your place or mine?" The reply came quickly. "Surprise me." Their relationship had deepened over the months, finding its own rhythm despite their busy schedules. Elijah had been true to his word, supporting Bridge Gallery without overshadowing Maya's leadership. He had made introductions where useful, offered advice when asked, but always respected the boundaries they'd established. Meanwhile, something unexpected had happened. As Maya grew more secure in her independent identity, Elijah had begun to change as well. The notorious Iceman of the business world was thawing, allowing more of his authentic self to show not just with Maya but in his professional life too. Zoe knocked on the office door, interrupting Maya's thoughts. "The community council is here for the summer program planning session," she announced. "And the caterers called they need final numbers for the fundraiser by tomorrow." "Tell the council I'll be right out," Maya replied, gathering her notes. "And confirm 90 for the fundraiser, better to have extra food than run short." The gallery was expanding its programming, building on the success of the initial educational initiatives. The summer would bring artist residencies, workshops for local youth, and a series of public conversations about art and social change. It was ambitious, but Maya had assembled a team that shared her vision and her work ethic. The community council meeting ran longer than expected, with passionate discussions about which neighborhoods should be prioritized for the mobile art installations they were planning. By the time Maya wrapped up her workday, it was nearly 7. She texted Elijah, "My place, take out from Chen's? I'll pick up on my way." At her apartment, the same modest one-bedroom she'd had before Bridge Gallery. Though she could now afford something larger, Maya kicked off her shoes and changed into comfortable clothes while waiting for Elijah. When he arrived, bearing not just food from their favorite Chinese restaurant but also a bottle of champagne, she raised an eyebrow. "Champagne on a Wednesday? Your news must be good." Elijah smiled, setting the bottle in her fridge to chill. "It is. But you first, what's your news?" Maya hesitated, suddenly nervous. "You go first. Mine can wait." Elijah studied her face, then nodded. "All right. Do you remember that project in Newark we discussed a few months ago? The mixed-use development near the Arts District?" Maya nodded. It was an ambitious project that would transform several blocks of abandoned warehouses into affordable housing, artist studios, and retail space. Elijah had been interested but hesitant about the financial viability. "The board approved it today," he announced. "But with a twist. We're creating a non-profit arm of Carter Enterprises specifically focused on community-centered development. Projects that prioritize local needs, sustainability, and cultural preservation." Maya's eyes widened. "Elijah, that's huge. A complete shift in your business model." "Not complete," he clarified. The core company will continue its traditional development work, but this new division, Carter Community Partners, will operate with different metrics for success. Social impact alongside financial return. What inspired the change? Maya asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. Elijah took her hand across the kitchen counter. You did. Bridge Gallery did. Seeing how you've approached development in West Side Building with the community rather than just for it or, worse, despite it. It's changed my thinking about what responsible development can look like. Maya squeezed his hand, deeply moved by the impact their relationship had had on his work. I'm so proud of you. This could change lives, transform neighborhoods without displacing the people who live there. That's the goal, Elijah agreed. He reached for the takeout containers, beginning to unpack their dinner. Now, your news? Maya took a deep breath. The Keller Foundation reached out. They want to fund an expansion of Bridge Gallery, not just our programming but our physical presence. Satellite locations in other underserved neighborhoods. A broader educational initiative. Support for a paid apprenticeship program. Maya, that's fantastic! Elijah exclaimed. The Keller Foundation is one of the most prestigious arts funders in the country. It gets better, Maya continued. They specifically mentioned that they were impressed by our community engagement model, the way we've integrated local voices into our curatorial process, our educational approach. They want to help us document it so other organizations can learn from what we're doing. That's significant validation, Elijah said. Your vision is becoming a model for others. Maya nodded, still processing the magnitude of the opportunity. It would mean expansion, hiring more staff, taking on more responsibility. She paused. It would also mean more public attention, more scrutiny. Understanding dawned in Elijah's eyes. You're worried about how our relationship will be perceived in that spotlight. Whether people will attribute your success to my influence rather than your vision. I thought I was past that concern, Maya admitted. But with something this big, this visible, I want to make sure Bridge Gallery's accomplishments stand on their own merits. Elijah was quiet for a moment, considering. What does your team think about the opportunity? They're thrilled, Maya said. Especially about the apprenticeship program that was Zoe's brainchild. And the community council? Cautiously optimistic. They want to make sure growth doesn't mean losing our connection to West Side. Elijah nodded, understanding her priorities. So, professionally, it's aligned with your vision. The only hesitation is personal, how our relationship might be perceived in relation to Bridge Gallery's expanding profile. Maya sighed. I know it shouldn't matter what people think. But perception can affect reality in your field, Elijah finished for her. I understand that better than most. He took her hands in his. Maya, what if we stopped trying to manage perceptions and just lived our truth? No more careful boundaries, no more strategic appearances or non-appearances. What do you mean? Maya asked. I mean, what if we got married? The question hung in the air between them. Unexpected and yet somehow not surprising at all. They had been moving toward this moment for months, building a partnership that transcended the usual categories of personal and professional. Are you proposing? Maya asked, her heart racing. Elijah smiled, a hint of vulnerability in his eyes. Not very elegantly, but yes. I love you, Maya. I love who I am when I'm with you. I love the world we're building together, both in our work and in our life. He squeezed her hands. I don't have a ring yet. I want us to choose that together. But I know with absolute certainty that I want to build a life with you. Tears welled in Maya's eyes. This isn't because of the Keller grant? Some misguided attempt to solve the perception problem? Not at all, Elijah assured her. Though I admit the timing is serendipitous. The Newark project just crystallized it for me, how much you've changed my life, my work, my understanding of what matters. Maya studied his face, the sincerity in his eyes, the openness that had replaced the guarded expression he'd worn when they first met. This was the real Elijah, the billionaire, not the Iceman, but the man who had watched her through a tinted window and been intrigued by her unconventional approach to a problem. "Yes," she said simply. "Yes, I'll marry you." His smile was radiant as he pulled her into his arms, kissing her with a tenderness that still surprised her, even after all these months. When they finally separated, Maya laughed softly. "We should open that champagne now. We have two things to celebrate." As Elijah retrieved the bottle, Maya's mind raced ahead. "You realize that getting married will only intensify the speculation about your influence on Bridge Gallery, not diminish it." "Probably," Elijah agreed, expertly unwrapping the foil. "But it will also mean we're done hiding, done apologizing, done pretending our personal and professional lives don't inform each other." The cork popped with a satisfying sound. "You inspire my work. I hope I inspire yours. That's something to celebrate, not conceal." He poured 2 glasses, handing one to Maya. "To us," he proposed. "To the bridges we're building together and separately." "To us," Maya echoed, clinking her glass against his. "And to unexpected beginnings." That night, as they lay together in Maya's bed, plans and dreams intertwining in their conversation, Maya thought back to the night she had used Elijah's car window as a mirror. How desperate she had been to avoid connection, to sabotage possibility before it could even begin. How certain she had been that nothing good could come from opening herself to someone new. Life had proven her gloriously wrong. 6 months later, they married in the Bridge Gallery warehouse, transformed for the occasion with thousands of tiny lights that made the space feel like a universe of stars. The guest list was an eclectic mix that reflected their intertwined worlds. Art world luminaries alongside West Side residents, business moguls beside community organizers, Maya's family meeting Elijah's for the first time. Susan from Hammond Gallery attended, her gift a valuable piece by an emerging artist Maya had long admired, a peace offering and acknowledgement rolled into one. David, Maya's would-be blind date from that fateful night, came with his new partner, both of them laughing with Maya about how things had worked out for the best. Tasha, as maid of honor, gave a toast that had the entire gathering in stitches as she recounted Maya's disastrous makeup sabotage plan and its unexpected outcome. "Some people find love through dating apps," she concluded. "Maya found it through a luxury car window and some truly terrible makeup choices. But looking at them now, I'd say whatever works beautifully." The expansion of Bridge Gallery was well underway, with plans for the first satellite location already approved. The Keller grant had indeed brought more attention, more scrutiny, but also more validation for Maya's vision. Critics who had initially attributed the gallery's success to Elijah's influence were now forced to acknowledge the innovative model Maya had created that was being studied and emulated by cultural institutions across the country. Meanwhile, Elijah's Carter Community Partners had broken ground on the Newark project, the first of several that would redefine what responsible development could look like in urban communities. The Iceman reputation was giving way to recognition of a more nuanced approach to business, one that valued community input, sustainability, and cultural preservation alongside profitability. Their work remained distinct, their professional identities independent, but they no longer pretended that their personal connection didn't enrich both their lives and their work. The bridges they built between art and community, between development and preservation, between different worlds and perspectives, were stronger for the bridge they had built between their own lives. As they danced together beneath the canopy of lights, surrounded by the community they had helped create, Maya leaned her head against Elijah's chest. "Did you ever imagine, that night when you saw me using your car window, that we'd end up here?" Elijah smiled, remembering the strange fascination he'd felt watching this beautiful woman deliberately sabotage her appearance. "Not specifically," he admitted, "but I knew I was seeing something real, something authentic in a world of facades. I knew I wanted to understand you." "And now?" Maya asked, looking up at him. "Now I know that understanding you is a lifetime project," he said softly. "One I'm grateful to have begun." As they moved across the floor, the mirrors of Peter's installation caught their reflection, not a single image but many, refracted and multiplied, showing them from different angles, in different lights. Past and present, separate and together, individual and connected. Just like the bridges they continued to build, crossing divides that had once seemed uncrossable, creating connections where none had existed before. Starting with that most unexpected of bridge-tinted car window that had become a mirror, reflecting possibilities that neither of them could have imagined on their own. 5 years later, Maya stood before the glass facade of Bridge Gallery's newest location, a converted train station in another city, another community in need of cultural connection. The grand opening was scheduled for the following day, the culmination of months of planning and collaboration with local artists and residents. At 41, Maya had grown into her role as a cultural innovator. What had begun as a single gallery in a warehouse had expanded into a network of community-centered art spaces across 3 cities. Each location maintained the core principles that had made the original Bridge Gallery a success: genuine community engagement, support for underrepresented artists, educational programming that made art accessible to all. The sun was setting, casting golden light across the restored architectural details of the old station. Maya took a moment to appreciate the beauty of the space, the potential it held for new connections, new conversations, new bridges between art and community. Her phone buzzed with a text from Elijah. "Just landed. On my way. How's it looking?" She smiled, typing back, "Beautiful. Can't wait for you to see it." Their partnership had deepened over the years, evolving with their growing careers and their family twin daughters, now 3 years old, who combined Maya's artistic sensitivity with Elijah's analytical mind in ways that constantly surprised and delighted them both. The girls were with their grandmother tonight, giving Maya and Elijah this rare evening to focus on the gallery opening. Inside the converted station, the exhibition was completely a powerful showcase of works exploring migration, belonging, and home. The soaring ceilings of the former waiting room created a sense of grandeur, while intimate spaces carved from old ticket offices and luggage rooms offered more personal encounters with the art. Maya walked through it one last time, making minor adjustments, ensuring everything was perfect for tomorrow's public unveiling. She had just finished when she heard footsteps echoing on the terrazzo floor. Elijah approached, his face lighting up as he took in the transformed space. At 45, he carried his success with a quiet confidence that had replaced the remote Iceman persona of his earlier career. Carter Community Partners had expanded beyond anyone's expectations, becoming a model for socially responsible development across the country. "Maya, this is exceptional," he said, greeting her with a kiss. "The way you've honored the history of the station while creating something entirely new, it's perfect." "Wait until you see the main installation," Maya said, taking his hand and leading him toward the former ticket hall. There, occupying the central space, was a massive work by Olawale Peterson, evolution of his mirror installation that had played such a pivotal role in their story. Now, the mirrors were incorporated into a structure reminiscent of a train, with windows that reflected viewers while simultaneously revealing glimpses of photographs, documents, and artifacts from the station's history and the community that had grown around it. "It's called Passages," Maya explained, about the journeys we take, the histories we carry with us, the reflections we see of ourselves in new places. Elijah stood before it, studying his own reflection fragmented and recombined with images of strangers, of history, of possibility. He said quietly, "A perfect centerpiece for this space." They walked the exhibition together, Maya pointing out details of the curation, the community input that had shaped the selection of artists, the educational programming that would bring local schools through these doors in the coming months. Afterward, they sat on a bench in what had once been the station's main waiting room, now transformed into a gallery space filled with light and art. Around them, staff made final preparations for the opening gala, their movements efficient but unhurried. "Do you ever think about that night?" Elijah asked, his arm around Maya's shoulders. "When you used my car window as a mirror?" Maya laughed softly. "More often than you might expect, especially when I'm facing a new challenge, taking a risk. I remind myself that the best things in my life came from what seemed like a moment of absolute disaster. A beautiful woman deliberately making herself look ridiculous," Elijah recalled with a smile. "I still don't know why it fascinated me so much." "Because it was real," Maya said simply. "In a world where everyone was trying to impress you, there I was, trying to do the exact opposite, to be so authentically myself, even at my most ridiculous, that someone would reject me. And instead, you found someone who was drawn to that authenticity," Elijah finished. Maya leaned her head against his shoulder. "We've built so much since then. The galleries, your community development projects, our family. Sometimes I can hardly believe how far we've come." "I can," Elijah said, "because every step of the way, we've been guided by the same principles: authenticity, connection, seeing the potential in places and people that others overlook." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, surrounded by the art they had helped bring into the world, in a space transformed by their shared vision of what was possible when different worlds connected. "There's something I've been meaning to ask you," Maya said finally. "The Bentley, do you still have it?" Elijah laughed. "It's in storage. I couldn't bear to part with it, given its role in our story." "Why?" "I think we should donate it," Maya said, "to a museum or cultural center. Have it converted into an interactive art piece car, with windows that serve as mirrors, that capture people's reflections and stories." Elijah considered the idea, a slow smile spreading across his face. "I love it. A permanent reminder that sometimes seeing yourself clearly means being willing to look ridiculous. That authentic connections begin with authentic self-presentation, especially when it's messy and imperfect." "Exactly," Maya agreed. "And maybe it helps someone else find their unexpected beginning, their own bridge to something wonderful." As they left the gallery that evening, walking hand in hand into the gathering darkness, they passed their reflection in the glass facade, two figures moving in tandem, distinct but connected, their separate journeys now permanently intertwined. Behind them, Peter's mirrors caught the last light of day, reflecting it in countless directions, creating patterns of light and shadow that transformed the space. Just as that first chance encounter had transformed their lives, creating possibilities neither could have imagined alone. A billionaire's tinted window, used as a mirror by a woman determined to sabotage her own date. An unlikely beginning that had led to bridges neither of them had known they needed to cross. A reflection that had revealed not just their faces but their potential together and separately to build something meaningful in a world hungry for authentic connection.